When you run a business, you should always keep an eye on your financial health. Not doing so can lead to the end of your freelance career. The topic of accounting is vast, but there are only a few things you need to know to make sure your company is healthy and on the right track. You need to know how much you're spending and where you're spending it, and you need to know if you're making enough money to cover your expenses. An easy way to keep an eye on how much you're spending is to look at your expense reports. Expense reports are a fancy document that just keeps track of all the money you spend to make sure what you're spending is accounted for. That is, you're not spending more money than you make. Earlier, we used FreshBooks to create and send invoices. The software also helps you keep an eye on your money. Freelance designers use a host of services to keep their businesses running. They pay for web hosting, storage services like Dropbox, Adobe Creative Cloud accounts, and many, many more. Keeping track of these expenses serve multiple useful purposes. Let's go ahead and add a few to our FreshBooks account. You add the amount, date of transaction, vendor, the category, and any notes you want to associate with the expense. It's important to categorize your expenses, and any good accounting software should provide you with some categories to start. We're going to add a hosting expense from the past month. Your expenses won't always fit into the provided categories, and that's fine. You can always create your own categories to help you understand your expenses better. We're going to add a hosting category under professional services to help us keep track of this expense. FreshBooks also helps you add in all the little nuances. You can specify how much of your total was tax, whether the expense is a recurring one, and you can attach a receipt if you have one. All accounting software should let you do this. In our example, our web hosting could be a service that we provide for our clients, so we have to bill them for it. FreshBooks allows you to associate an expense with a client. Let's go ahead and do this as well, and since our expense is recurring, we'll check that box too. Okay, so now that we have recorded this expense, FreshBooks allows us to convert it to an invoice with a click of a button. See how simple that is? No more trying to remember whether you charged them for hosting and whether they followed up on it. FreshBooks also attaches a status to the expense item, indicating whether it has been invoiced and whether the invoice has been paid off. If you go back to our home page, FreshBooks also gives us a comprehensive summary of our invoices and expenses. Hovering over each month, we can get a quick summary of any outstanding invoices and any unbilled expenses. This is really helpful and can help us keep track of how much money we're owed. Apart from the very useful function of keeping track of how our money is being spent, why bother tracking every single expense? The main reason is for taxes. Come tax time, having our expenses categorized and documented means we can obtain certain deductions. If you pay for your own health insurance, then it can be deducted from your tax returns. If you work out of your home, you can claim certain expenses for the home office. And even if your business ends up not making money, you can deduct that from your taxes. But to be able to do any of this, you have to track your expenses meticulously as proof. As with anything tax-related, regulations vary across states and countries, so be sure to check with a tax professional for the deductions that are available to you. Which brings me to the always wonderful topic of taxes. As a freelancer, it's your duty to keep track of all your income earned so that you can send a bit of it away to the government as taxes. That's fun, right? When you work for someone, your income taxes are already taken out of your paycheck, so you don't have to think about it. As a freelancer, however, that's something you have to take care of. Keep detailed track of all your income receipts so that you won't be accused of doing anything wrong come tax time. Aside from keeping track of your income, you'll also have to pay your income taxes at the end of the year. This is another area that, if you forget, can essentially ruin your business. Make it a point to keep an estimate of the amount of taxes you owe, and then put that money aside so that you are prepared to pay your taxes and not scrambling to get money together. This is really important because people are so used to having taxes taken out of their paycheck. When they're self-employed, they forget all about income taxes. Not being prepared and having to pay such a large amount at the end of the year can really put your company behind in terms of cash flow. Rather than paying all at once, you can pay estimated tax payments quarterly towards your taxes. These smaller amounts can make it easier to stay on top of your payments. Aside from your income tax, you will also have to pay self-employment taxes such as Social Security or healthcare. These rates change from time to time, and the amount you pay depends on all sorts of things, including your company's structure. You could try and do it all on your own, but making a mistake when it comes to taxes is the worst kind of mistake you can make. It's definitely not easy to solve. I recommend finding a tax professional who can help you with all these issues. When looking for an accountant who can guide you on these matters and do your taxes for you, take your time. The best way to go about it is to be as picky as you would be when deciding whether you want to work for a client or not. Take your time and talk to a bunch of people. Treat it like an interview process. You are the client in this situation, and you want to find someone who can do the best job for you. When selecting an accountant, they should have the following traits. First, a good reputation. Talk to other freelancers about an accountant or an accounting firm. Bad news spreads quickly, and if there's anything negative, you will hear about it immediately. Your accountant should also be a great communicator. Just like a good client, a good accountant should be well-rounded in communication. They should get back on time with any questions you have, and they should be able to explain any actions they're taking. They should also be an educator. You want an accountant who's going to help you run your business and not just be a number cruncher. Find someone who's willing to take the time to explain things to you and guide you through the murky areas. When you're interviewing accountants, make sure they have experience dealing with your industry and have worked with some of your peers. The last thing you want is an accountant who is as unfamiliar about the business aspect of your industry as you are. Finally, you want them to be available. You should be able to reach them in your time of need. Just as you set rules with your clients, you shouldn't expect your accountant to be available on the weekends, but they shouldn't be more than a phone call or email away. Remember, at the end of the day, accounting will help you watch over your money, but it won't make you any money. Learn the essentials you need to run your business, but don't spend a lot of time managing your books. Invoice effectively, track your expenses, and log your income, and let your accountant do the rest.